what, 3 out of the last 4 months, I think QM has populated our agenda. And the reason I brought it back is we just did a webinar a month ago. I think it was after the last monthly connection. And we're continuing to learn more about what's expected. But I think what I'm learning is, learning more from your side of the desk, what you were already doing before. And as I understand more about what you were doing compared to what's going to be required, I think we can make it even easier than maybe the last time you heard this. So I asked Amy to add this to the agenda update for preparing for the new general QM and the Fannie Freddie thing. So the angle I want to take is mostly Fannie and Freddie here this morning. So let me start with this. The mandatory compliance date, the CFPB pushed that thing out to October 1st, 2022 for the new general QM or the revised general QM, however you want to refer to that. And we talked about last month how that seems like a sigh of relief, but maybe not really. Okay, hold that thought. The second item I want to bring up is the temporary QM. That's the GSE patch, the one that you all use for the secondary market. Well, that was supposed to die off originally in January. Then they kicked it to July of 2021. And then it's already been pushed out to that same October 1st, 2022 date. But there's a big but. And the big but is the Fannie and Freddie backed mortgage loans that many of you do through the secondary market. Fannie and Freddie, which is a government program, decided not to align themselves with the government regulations that were pushed out until October 1st of 2022. They said, as of July 1st, any application that comes in on or after that date, you will have to do this new general QM, even though the regulation doesn't require it. And you will not be allowed to rely on the GSE patch QM, even though it's also not going to go away for an entire year or more at that same October 1st, 2022 date. So those of you that do secondary market loans have to get yourself prepared. Okay, first you need to understand that GSE patch QM, the temporary one, even though it's there, you won't be able to utilize it. Okay, what's that mean in plain English? Well, you used to be able to submit to Desktop Underwriter or Loan Prospector, and if you got back that the loan was approved, eligible, or whatever their feedback is that it's super cool and they'll buy it from you, okay, it automatically met the QM standard. And you could rely on that solely for the QM status. That's going away. They're taking the responsibility that you were able to rely on by way of that feedback, and they're putting it solely on you. And so even though you might submit, well, you will submit to Desktop and LU or LP, but the feedback you get, you can't rely on that. You can use that as part of your consideration, but it really rests with you to decide, all right, okay, they're willing to accept it. Now, does it check all the other boxes? And if you're familiar with our repayment ability and risk matrix that's available on our website, there's a column for this new general QM or the revised version of it that you have to check all the boxes on, both with the loan itself and then from a policy and procedure standpoint. So I'll work back to that here in a minute. Let me give you a couple things that'll help you with some of the questions. The term applications on or after, it's TRID applications. So think TRID 6. If you don't have all 6 pieces yet, and it's the end of June, and you get them the first week of July, that's now an application on or after that date, because that's when you receive the last of the 6 items for TRID. So they don't follow Reg B, they follow the TRID 6 application date, which makes things a little confusing. The big thing with this revised QM is it comes down to 2 words: consideration and verification. Half of that you were already doing under the QM standards, because when you collect the information, the factors that need to be utilized for underwriting, okay, you had to verify it with third-party information. Okay, that's long been part of the QM rule. They're continuing that, okay, but they've added this consideration to the regulation. Now, it's not that you weren't considering income and debts and monthly payments and all that other stuff. It's now just been written into the regulation. So you've got to deal with this consideration and verification thing, but you were already doing it. Okay. The next thing is that, all right, you're doing that. You got to put it in writing. You have to have a policy that says, here's how you do ATR and QM. You have to have procedures that carry out that. And so that sounds complex. I know we've had many that said, hey, is BCC going to come up with a sample policy? I don't think we need to. It's going to be really simple for these Fannie and Freddie loans. Hey, you have a loan policy. You likely have loan procedures. What you need to do is incorporate into your loan policy a QM statement that when something that goes like this, when we make loans that are we make secondary market loans, they will be general qualified mortgages, period. Okay, that's your policy statement, and you'll follow the rules. Okay, then the procedures. Here's where it gets really simple. You don't have to recreate the wheel here. For the consideration and verification standard, the rules that you already follow are the Fannie and Freddie selling guides. So in your loan procedures, put another statement that says that you will refer to and follow the Fannie and Freddie selling guides. Now, you have to make sure you do what you say and say what you do. So you'll have to follow through on those, but you were doing that anyway. And so that's your written procedures angle there. So that's what I can really, each time I teach this, it seems to get simpler and simpler. And hopefully that makes it super simple for your teams to get ready in the short time between now and July 1st. Couple of odds and ends I want to throw in here to close this topic out. I've had many small creditors. Now think small creditors in the QM world. There's the balloon QM and there's the portfolio QM. Is anything changing there? And the answer is no, it's not. Those QMs will still be at your disposal if you meet the criteria of the small creditor status there. So nothing changes there. If you're a small creditor though, this Fannie and Freddie stuff does apply to your secondary market loans. So a small creditor has no changes internally with your in-house loans. But with your secondary market loans, that list that I just went through, you'll have to go back and make sure you account for all of that. I know I ran down that information pretty quickly here. This is being recorded and you'll be able to go back and listen to it again, and you can hit pause and rewind and hopefully make sure you've checked all those boxes. Or we've got a 30-minute and a 1-hour webinar if you want the longer version along the way. So that's the update I wanted to bring to the table with that Fannie and Freddie stuff, just because of the number of questions, and it's a here and now item.